Hey everyone, Emil here with some quick pre-show announcements. Niels is on vacation, meaning I have the whole podcast to myself. Just kidding, he will still be heard on this one. But with the pre-recording going on, we also wanted to try a new editing style to make episodes a bit shorter, more coherent, and simply better. Let us know what you think of this style. We have a lot to improve, but are trying our best to give you the best content we can provide. When Niels comes back from vacation, we will start right into some more changes to the format we use. And I know, don't worry, we will still be the chaotic idiots you love. We are also excited to have new guests on the show in the future again. The pre-recording made that a little bit impossible to us. So now I have talked for long enough, so enjoy the intro and after that, the discussion on improv. What's up? Welcome to the 23rd episode of DoubleDM podcast, where I, Emil, and Niels, my lovely co-host,
hello,
talk about... What is today's topic again?
I think it was improv. Yeah, it was improv.
Man, we're improvising this session today.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we do.
Like, how are you feeling? How is today for you?
I'm good. We are preparing for my vacation. So it's a little scrambled, but yeah, it was all good. I had a session yesterday with my buff half-Oni wizard.
Oh, tell me about that. How was that?
Yeah, in the first session we were attacked by some sort of airship dropping bombs on us, which is unusual because it was a sailing ship, but flying, and we need to alert different temples around the continent. And for that we got, or had to get, a Crown of Dreams, it was called.
Ooh.
With which we could cast the dream spell once per day to alert other temple guardians. We did that in the last session. It was a pretty RP heavy session, and then wandered through the mountains to get to the next village. Nearly falling to death because of stupid breaking rocks, we landed in a cave, wandered through that a bit, and left on a cliffhanger where we stand right in front of a Dao, some sort of earth djinn type of thing.
Hey, that sounds interesting.
Yeah.
That sounds like a really cool session, like with an airship dropping bombs.
Yeah, it was weird. It was some sort of galleon.
I mean, the thing is, if you have an airship, right?
Yeah.
Like, ships still sail like, there are enough sailing ships out there that sail with wind. An airship, you would think, doesn't need a sail, but
yeah,
it could still use, because wind is also probably also at that altitude.
Yeah, definitely.
And if then you only need levitation magic. Maybe in that world, levitation magic is easier to procure than real flying.
Yeah.
Especially for something like such a large body, which would be very interesting to actually have in your world. Like, you have an airship, right? Those things are known in D&D thanks to Aberon, but now think about this airship can only levitate and has some modification of the levitate spell, but basically still only moves because of wind current, and you would still need sailors on that ship to actually man the sails.
Yeah, I'm interested where this is going. It will be fun, I think.
This is actually a very interesting idea, because normally airships are always thought to be just flying ships. Though they wouldn't need sails if they can fly freely.
Mm-hmm.
But if they can only levitate, if you think about it, the water is just levitating the boat.
Yeah, that's all it is.
That's an interesting thought. Yeah, I like that.
That more or less was the big event in my week.
Okay.
I bet you have something you want to talk about too.
Yeah, because we're pre-recording, just had on Saturday this week, I had the big Call of Cthulhu Excursions into Madness Session 1 on stream. It was...
Yeah.
Well, it was a lot of things. It was a lot of technical problems. It was the day of the Germany-Portugal match in the Euro Cup, which also meant that I, as a German who more or less wanted to see this match, was I wasn't distracted from the game, right? But I had the game open and always looked over to the game because I definitely wanted to see the match, but I also wanted to pay attention to the game. And I think I paid more attention to the game we were playing because it was way more interesting than the match, even though the match was a banger. But I think especially my co-players, Cody Garrett Wells and Josh from Check These Out, we three had amazing play already. We were playing a good game. With our DM Doug from Nerdy Excursions, we had a very good group. Sadly, Hope for TTRPGs wasn't there. That was very sad because Hope was feeling sick. And since it was also the first session, a lot of testing and prologue of the game, that was fine, and we still had a very cool 2.5 hour session that went really well. We had some fun, interesting information handed to us, a mystery already, and some cool introductory combat, you could say, plus some very cool roleplay at the beginning. Have you watched this already?
Yeah, I have watched the VOD for breakfast yesterday.
Oh, so tell me, what was the experience for you?
I like the setting thing with the 1920s, 30s-ish thing. The music, that it isn't taking place in neither North America nor Europe during that time.
I will say that this is just the prologue in Peru.
Yeah.
And we will probably play on different continents. And if you've seen the promo poster for it, you know that we will be probably in Japan at some point because there are Japanese symbols on it. And we already talked about being on different continents in Asia, Europe, and wherever.
Yeah, but I like that the start isn't that stereotypical Call of Cthulhu, yeah, we are in Great Britain or in 1920s New York or stuff like that. It was a little turn on the head, but in a good way, and I like it. That introducing that cast of characters in the prologue that you did, or that Doug did, it was fun. And the combat thing, if you want to call it a full-out combat, was interesting as well. I like the idea which he had using this specific type of thing. I don't want to spoil anything, so I'm using thing a lot. Sorry about that. But yeah.
You can say that was pretty horrifying what you saw.
You bet your ass it was.
It was great. It was exactly what I wanted to see out of a Call of Cthulhu game, because I've never played. I've planned to play for like 2 years already, and now I finally get the chance as a player. And I think I did a lot of things. I don't want to praise myself because I hate praising myself, but we all did a lot of things right with our characters in that session. We had a doctor who instantly tended to the wounded. We had an author who basically looked for the information, and we had the soldier, who was me, who basically took after the creature that attacked. So every one of us played a different part in that instance.
Yeah, but still kind of working together, but still not. Because you all did different things, but it all followed the same goal, kind of. It was fun. I definitely advise everyone listening to watch this.
Yeah. It's also gonna be available as a podcast. Probably already is when this episode airs, but it's also podcast form, which might be better for some people, because we can probably trim that session down at least around half an hour. I think can Doug do that, so only probably 1.5 to 2 hours listening time, which is okay, cool. Yeah, listen to it, watch it. Doug is an amazing DM, so if you ever get the chance to even play with him, take that chance. I can guarantee you that is something you should take as a chance. That's amazing. He's very good.
Yeah, it sounded like fun, but it also came from the different players. You all worked together well, built up of each other's roleplay and stuff. It was good. I love it.
So, how is the weather?
To put it simply, I feel like an fucking ice cube in a desert, just melting away.
Today is not that strong. It's only 21 degrees Celsius outside.
But the last 4 to 5 days were like
always been above 30. Yeah.
I think we hit the peak. Yeah, I think we hit the peak last Friday with 37 point something degrees Celsius.
I think 0.8 it was.
Yeah, it was. Oh, damn. It was just so hot.
Like, the big problem for me with this weather is I can't really start sleeping. Like, I have a difficult time falling asleep in this heat, but as soon as I'm sleeping, I am down for the count. It will not wake me up for like 6 or 7 hours straight when I'm asleep in this heat, but falling asleep is so much harder for me.
Yeah, You need a lot, or I need a lot more time as well. I'm glad I have some sort of ventilator next to my bed. It helps, but the noise is distracting again, so
I mean, I sleep with an open window, right? But like...
Yeah, but even if it's 1 a.m., the air was still, I think, 26 or 27 degrees.
It was still very, very hot.
It was colder than in noon, but still hot. But that's basically the weather description for me.
Yeah, same. It's just hot. So, with the Witcher campaign, I'm doing a whole lot more improv than I normally do with my campaigns. I think that's because, or how I wanted the campaign to be. I wanted it to be way more player-centric because we have so few players. Like we talked about in the last episode, player composition, right?
Yeah.
I have very few players in that campaign. Like 3, and that allows me way more to make stories that are way more player-centric because there's no one left out.
Yeah.
And that way I can do a lot more improv because I know for a fact that you guys all have the same goal to meet. Like, in other campaigns, they have the goal to stop the cult of Tiamat from resurrecting Tiamat, but their ways to get there are heavily different. You 3 in that campaign all have the same way to get there.
Yeah.
Because of why you're so few players, you have to work together more in the setting, so I think, and then that's the reason why I do more improv with you guys, because I, for a fact, don't have the problem of having to really improv everything because I know for a fact that you will follow the hints I give you because they are the only ones you will get.
Exactly.
And you guys know that. So this is why I do a lot of improv. I improvise basically everything in that campaign except for descriptions. I describe to you how the NPC looks or the place you're going to looks, the scenes. Everything else is probably improvised. I have the information that NPC can give you, but aside from that, it's purely improv. That NPC has a name, he has a certain way he looks, he has the information he can give you, but that's it. There is nothing more. I have the stat blocks prepared for the monsters you will fight, and basically that's it. I don't know what you're gonna do with the information that I give you, and I also don't plan. I plan the sessions basically only 2 days before we actually play. And that is only with the information that I have from you guys saying where you will want to go when the last session ended.
And trust me, we don't know what to do with the information either when we get this.
Yeah, obviously not.
Yeah,
players, right?
Yeah, it's just the usual. But
no player knows what they are supposed to do with the information given.
Exactly.
But that's the fun of improv. That's the fun you have of improv, because you as the DM can't predict what your players want to do with that information, and players don't know what the DM wants you to do with that information. Sometimes it's very clear. Like, okay, this person has been taken hostage. And there is more or less one logical explanation the DM mostly wants you to go, and depending on the campaign you are.
Yeah.
But normally it's something to do with that hostage, not ignoring it. But I have a campaign right now, the Phantoms of Chaos one, where my players, I've told them beforehand, this world you're in is evolving. This world you're in is big. You are not supposed to solve every problem for anybody. Like, they have this mass murderer running free around the land right now.
Mm-hmm.
That is something that I totally improvised.
Oh.
I never planned. I just put this there as a potential story hook for later, because I have a point where I can use that character, and I thought it would be good to now put it in. And my players have been discussing for 3 sessions straight if they should ever follow this guy or try to find them. They don't know. They don't have any information. One of them wants to stop him. Wants to stop that mass murderer because they're a paladin.
Yeah.
The other one says, hey, it's way too dangerous to go after a mass murderer psychopath for us. Why would we do that? That is improv, because I didn't give them the information that they have to go after them, or that they should not go after them. I only gave them the information that they are there, and now my players are improvising what their characters would do in that situation with that information, and acting upon that information with their character.
Yeah, and regarding all that, you told us that you don't really plan that much in the Witcher campaign now. But in your usual, for example, D&D campaigns, which you mostly play, is there some sort of difference between how much you plan and how much you improv? Some sort of ratio, maybe, or...
I think a ratio is hard,
yeah,
because ratios are always hard. No, the problem is it depends on the type of session we play. The Witcher campaign, every session is more or less structured the same way, or at least I have it planned the same way, that it will go like you going to scene A, finding information, going to scene B. You're supposed, you guys, I think you've noticed so far, are supposed to solve a mystery over this campaign. A mystery of why people transform into monsters.
Yeah.
That have no weird connection to those monsters. So that's the mystery you guys are supposed to solve. In the Tiamat campaign, my players and I decided to basically bust this module wide open and do a lot of more stuff inside the module. It's not only about stopping Tiamat, it's also about finding out about dying gods, the blood wars that are very important in Faerun lore, the wars between devils and demons in the lower planes, which are heavily weaved into the story as well, because Tiamat in this instance is the prime protector of the 9 hells, of the first level of the 9 hells. Resurrecting her and pulling her from the 9 hells, that might result in something different for those blood wars.
Oh yeah, that's an interesting thing.
Then again, I have this tournament arc we're in right now. My players are in Waterdeep, and I basically gave them a lot of downtime now to reiterate all their information, look at it, cluster it, and find out what they can tell to whom. Like, the last 2 months of sessions were just them getting information and fighting and surviving. Now it's more about what to do with that information we got, and how do we use it, and what do we tell which, and how can we influence the politics, because they realize they are not strong enough to destroy this cult. They need help from organizations like the Order of the Gauntlet, the Harpers, the Flaming Fist, the House of Heroes, and stuff like that. But they also need rich influencers. No, we're not talking about YouTubers and TikTokers. I'm talking about diplomats, lords, ladies, kings, queens, all that stuff.
People have the power to amass a huge army in case it's needed.
Yeah, or huge wealth. They are trying right now to get magic items they can use to destroy the cult. Like items that prevent charm effects, items that can slay dragons, items that can protect you from fire, acid, or whatever damage type a dragon does. Those are items they're trying to acquire right now. And now the fun thing is they don't have the money or the means to get these items. They need help. How do they get that? That's something fun. So talking about this, how much do I improv, and like I do this improv because it works with this group. This is simple, but you always have to find the way to improv with you. You always have to find a common denominator on where everyone is at the level that they enjoy it. There is something like doing too much improv for some people. There is something that not enough improv. There's always the right amount of level for a table, and that's the table you need to find. That's the level you need to find for that table, or you need to find another table for you. If that's not your level of improv, that's fine. That's okay. No hard feelings there. At least for me as the DM, when you go is saying, this is not the game I want to play.
Exactly.
Also, I found that level at being, I think, 40% planning, 60% improv.
Yeah, sounds about right for me.
Same for you?
Yeah, something along those lines, depending on the group. I'm fine either way, but around 50-50 plus minus 10% on each side, depending on the group.
Also depending on the session, right?
Exactly.
If I have a big political sessions, I plan a lot more than if I know that it's just gonna be them running around the city, buying stuff, talking to simple people. But if it's diplomatic meeting, I plan what that diplomat actually wants from them and what information they can give to them.
Obviously.
That's a lot more planning. So, we're talking now about planning improv, right? Because I told a lot about that I do planning to support my improv. So, can you actually prepare improv?
I think you can prepare most of improv you gotta do. What you cannot prepare for improv, because that would be preparation again, is you have an NPC, you lay down everything from the accent to the looks, blah, 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 blah. All that would be preparation. But for example, you can improv minor NPCs with, for example, random table. You can improv the race, the hairstyle, the looks, and all that for minor NPCs, I think, is pretty more or less easy to do. For major plot relevant NPCs, you need some sort of personality and you have a clear picture in mind, so you have to write that down beforehand. Improvising major story and important NPCs is pretty hard, I think.
Yeah. I have a question for you to intersect real quick with that. Do you have standards. Like, if I don't have a smith they can go to, it's always a dwarf for me. It could be that's maybe a little bit unfair for dwarves, because I think that...
But dwarves are the dudes in the mountains with the medals. Of course it is. Man, stereotypes are there for a reason.
Stereotypes, yoo-hoo! No, it's always this little rugged dwarf, black beard, a little bit grumpy. That's my go-to blacksmith. If I get out of the blue questions, can I go to a blacksmith? I think, okay, yeah, there is one, it's a dwarf, and have fun with it. It's simple, it works, and my players know it. They know it's a dwarf, they know it's simple. Sometimes I change that up, right? Sometimes I say, no, it's a half-elf. Sometimes it's a halfling.
Yeah, but these standards, I got them too. For example, staying at the smithy example, for me it's also a dwarf, but not that young anymore. He's an older dude, buff as hell, grumpy, some scars along the face, grey beard, battle-worn maybe, and just hammering about. Sometimes I like to add a spice of little burn marks when he was in training for being a smith, and so on and so forth. But for example, herbalists are always some sort of elven woman. Elderly elven women are my herbalists in general.
Like, I would advise anyone to get these standards down, and they can be whatever you want. They don't have to be the stereotypes of the dwarven smith or the elven herbalist. You can also have the dwarven herbalist for your games, but it's a standard answer to increase your improv speed.
Exactly.
You have the stereotype down, and it's simple. And for example, my players don't mind every second smith they come across is a dwarf.
Yeah.
They also don't find it funny. Like, it's not something like we do for comic relief, or every smith is a dwarf. It's just a simple standard that we agreed to, that's simple, that everyone understands and is okay with.
Yeah. What I like to use for library keepers and lore keepers is always some
gnomes or halflings.
Dragonborns for me.
Ah, damn.
Okay, in my no homebrew world, it's a little difficult because there are no dragons born, so I have to find a new stereotype. But in general, if there's a bookstore or something like a big library, and the headmaster of that library or the store owner is always some sort of dragonborn.
In my homebrew setting, there's a Dragonborn Nation that is basically a very, very Asian-inspired nation. Basically, think about the Shogun era of Japan. Those are Dragonborns for me in my homebrew setting.
Very nice.
So they are mostly traditional sword-fighting masters. Like, they are the ones you meet at the sword fighting school. They're not heavily in the army per se. They are not generals, but they are basically the masters of their craft.
Yeah.
In my setting always, because they have a craft and they perfect it. That's Dragonborns for me in my setting. The original Dragonborns in my setting. So coming back to the can you prepare improv?
Yeah.
We talked about, we have descriptions, right?
Yeah.
We have prepared descriptions in our head that we can improv on.
Exactly.
Simple standards, simple descriptions that help us improv that NPC. Also helping is the information that NPC has for the players if they have some.
Yeah.
Like if they're a shopkeep, the prices they have. I have not necessarily a price list, but I have a general understanding of this store is not expensive. This store is very cheap.
Yeah.
Making the quality maybe a little bad, but it's cheap. My players don't have to pay much. And then I just blurt out a random number of silver or copper coins, and my players are mostly fine with it.
Yeah.
And if there is them saying, well, that's a little bit expensive in my opinion, then I can look up still standard prices on the internet or in a price list that I have on my PC.
What I like to use in that regard is having some sort of magic shop selling magic items. Have a broad price range for the rarity of the item in my head, and then adjusting it to the availability, not just obviously a rarer item is not that available, but there are differences in availability between rare and unrare in the rare item category, if you know what I mean. Some rare items are more available than others. That's what I'm trying to say.
The problem with that for me is magic item shops I have are always planned, because magic items in my homebrew setting are heavily regulated. Since magic in that setting is controlled chaos, those weapons are weapons of chaos.
Yeah. Understandable.
The magic inside it could be used to make something way more sinister than the weapon actually is.
Yeah, I see.
So that's where electrum pieces in D&D, for example, come in for me. You can only buy magic items with electrum pieces.
That's interesting. Maybe I'll implement that.
And electrum pieces are only granted by the bank to those that have a permit for that, for owning electrum pieces.
That's interesting. I think I'm gonna steal that.
Makes it also very interesting with black markets.
Oh, yeah.
Since magic items are heavily regulated and electrum pieces are heavily regulated, the black market is booming on electrum pieces and magic items.
Yeah, I have to experiment more with black markets. I haven't touched that in a while.
That approach is not mine, though. I will say that. That's by Dale Kingsmell on YouTube. I saw a video by them about that and I used it and I've adapted it quite a bit to my setting. But that's way too much of a deep dive right now to talk about this black market system I have. Yeah. Anything else do you prepare for improv, or how you can prepare you getting better at improv or getting better improv?
What I like to use is looking at random tables or D100 tables, for example, for NPC looks or magic items or artifacts or art pieces or stuff like that. There are several internet sites where you can look those up. One I like to use a lot is donjon.bin.sh, I think.
Yeah, I know that. Donjon is, I think fine. Everyone knows this.
Yeah, and I like to use it, for example, even for taverns when they come into a city and I haven't prepared the whole city. So the first stop in every city is mostly a tavern. So if I don't have anything prepared, I just go onto that internet site and click on the tavern. They give you a description, a barkeep, and their classic or their standard menu with drinks and food, and a description of the place itself, from the outside and from the inside. And you can state what type of patrons there are, if they are adventurers or villagers, or if it's a poor, common, or expensive inn, and stuff like that. And if you use them enough, or have used them a lot of times, you have a bank or a pool of, for example, taverns, which you can use. So in general, I like to use those random tables, D100 tables, or stuff like that. Look it up and pick my favorites out of them, and then I have a pool of things I can throw at my players, for example.
Yeah, that's a good way to use random tables, I think, to basically have a backlog of information to then throw into the game if you need them, because you didn't plan for this and right now are a little bit blank on improv.
Yeah, especially on some flavor and spice things. If you say, for example, they want to visit an art museum. In general, no DM will prepare any art museums.
As long as the players didn't say it the session before.
Exactly. But players are players and say, hey, we have a little downtime. I want to go to an art museum. What do I find there? And then you have your art piece random table, which you dissected and sort your favorite things out. And then you can just sprinkle them in where you want and say, yeah, there's a statue of, for example, Tiamat, or
oh, nice.
Yeah, or the Platinum Dragon, or a painting of the Monarch, or something like that.
I like that. I have a different thing with random tables, because I use them a little bit like you, but also differently. Because if I have to prepare, like, this is not improv, right? If I have to prepare something, I go to random tables and click until I find something that gives me an idea.
Yeah, I'll do that too.
I have an NPC, a Dragonborn. Okay, I go to the fantasy name generator list, because those are amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone should use this website.
Oh, yeah.
I seriously hope that they are still working on that website, because I think it has a lot of more potential than it has right now. But it works great for what it does for me, but I think it can be better. But this could also be me being a systems engineer and software engineer that wants to make something better every time to improve it.
Yeah.
No, but I use these, like, I need a Dragonborn name. Okay, click, no name, click, click, click. Oh, that name. Yeah, but I change around these letters, add this one, cut this end.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a perfect name now. That's something I use random tables for. That's not improv, right? But I think for improv, what you said is basically true. True for me as well. It works having a list of stuff you can use to, again, make your improv a little bit speedier, because I think a lot of stuff in improv is getting faster at it and getting better at it. Like at the beginning you have two components to improv: speed and the quality.
Yeah.
And basically together this creates a graph. If the speedier you normally get, maybe the worse your improv gets. If you have to throw something out quick, you don't have time to think about it. You need to get better at this ratio of speed and quality.
Yeah.
And basically having an idea written down already that you can just use as a basis that you can then improv on makes the speed part way more quicker.
Yeah, and regarding that, because we talked a lot about what we can prepare to improv. And I think for both of us, we DM'd a lot over the years, and I think our improv style or improv amount changed a lot. How was it for you?
Yes, it changed a lot. At the beginning, I planned basically everything because I, as the DM, had the fear of not being prepared. I think a lot of DMs have that fear at the beginning, not being prepared. And that's totally fine. That fear is totally acceptable and fine. And I can the only advice I can ever give to new DMs is just keep going. Don't care about that fear. You don't have to go against this fear full force. If you have a fear of not being good at improv and being not prepared, then prepare what you need to prepare and take little steps down so you get better at it, right?
Yeah,
I did way more planning early on, and I did get way more comfortable with it because I felt like it became too much to prepare the sessions, because I basically made a decision tree for every session. They start here, they can go this way, or this way, and then I had 3 strengths I needed to talk about.
Yeah, and this splits out even more, and
that became too much. And that's the problem of, not the problem, but that's a thing of giving players this freedom to play. They will choose actions you can't prepare for.
Exactly.
So prepare more in general. The information that they need from a scene, how they get it, is not that important. As long as it feels rewarding to them, you did your job in giving them that information correctly.
Yeah, and one thing that changed for me in improv over the years is, at first I already, like you said, planned a lot and planned everything and felt totally lost when they didn't go the way I expected them or wanted them to go. So I just moved the objective where they should go to the spot where they went. That's a little weird, and it felt not that great. So I tried to change it, and it just felt weird to disregard everything I had prepared, but I don't have to cancel that. I don't have to cross that out, which then slowly came to my mind. I just can put it on pause, and if they decide to go there later, I can just pull on that information. I just had to let go of the fear of, I don't know what to do, because you will. You just need time. The more you play, the better you get at it. And don't have to worry about, I have prepared this whole castle, but they didn't went to that castle. They went to the fishing village. So the thing I did more then is prepare the world as a whole. At the earlier on, the better. Because if you know everything about your world, they can't really surprise you with things that you don't have prepared.
You get more comfortable with it again. It's a lot about comfortability. I will now put a new verb out there. MacGuffingen.
MacGuffingen?
Yeah, you know what a MacGuffin is, right? It's just an object that's there, that has that, it's just an object, like a case in the Hell of a Boss one shot we played. This case. It was just that. It was just a case for you guys to follow. It was just important to the story because it was a case.
Yeah.
It wasn't very important what it actually did. And that's what you did with that. You placed that object somewhere else, right? And it fell out of place.
Yeah.
The thing is, you had this object prepared, you placed somewhere else, and it fell out of place there because it wasn't prepared for that place.
Exactly.
Instead of building that object and placing it somewhere else, you only place what that object provides and place it somewhere else in something else that fits. For example, if your players are supposed, like you have in your mind a little plan, they're supposed to get the sword, right, from the dungeons, but they don't, and then they need the sword before they can go to somewhere. You could just say they don't have the sword. That's totally fine. That's okay. That's a
mindset I had to hammer into my mind to say, if they don't follow up on the clues and hints I give them,
don't throw the stuff after them.
Exactly. It's totally fine if they don't, but you have to give them the agency to say, we disregard that and go somewhere else. But that's a hard thing.
To your example with the fishing village and the castle, that's something to new DMs that could be quite scary.
Yeah.
Right now, my first guess, I wouldn't say veteran DM, but as an experienced GM would just be, the fishes in the village talk about the castle a lot.
Yeah.
The lord in that castle owns this fishing village and is a dick to them, and they complain about him. And your players then might pick up on this castle. The castle is important. A fisher in the village tasks the players with going to the castle, basically demanding from the Lord, like the Lord took the daughter from the fisher, right?
Yeah.
And now he tasks the players with getting the daughter back. Now the players have a quest. Now you can redirect them to the castle where you want them to go in your story. So this is a very good thing. If your players go off track, just gently push them back into the direction where they want to go. You can also hard push them, but it should feel natural to them, at least in some ways.
Exactly. Throw more signs at them. This is where the main plot is progressing. If you want to go there, please do it.
And this is also, again, MacGuffin. You have this daughter, which is just a tool for you to get your players to go somewhere.
Exactly.
It's just a tool your players can follow. It's just a tool. Like, the daughter is there, right? It's just the daughter, but the daughter isn't important to the story. What important is to the story that your players followed the daughter.
And go to the castle, where the main story will progress.
Exactly. So MacGuffin, for me, is just the word of basically using an object as something in the story, and your players interacting with that object. It may sound... It sounds completely weird because I'm not good at words, but... You have this object, and your players can do a lot of stuff with it. They can ignore it, they can go after it, but you have this object, and you can basically move it around, but don't move it out of place. But also, you can introduce a new object to get your players back on track.
Yeah, introduce new objects that point towards the main object that you want them to follow. Not using or not taking the main object away from its designated place, because then it just feels weird, but introduce little things. For example, coming back to the fishing village, if the lord in the castle is a tyrant, you could say the whole fishing village is burned down when you came there, and you find torn off and ripped off insignias or pieces of a flag leading to the lord of the castle.
Yeah. That's nice.
Something like that. And then you can, depending on how hard you want to push them in that direction, you have to link it somewhat to the player characters and how they would act, I think.
Yeah, obviously. If your player characters see... Yeah, if they see a burnt down village, and they normally don't react to those, like, we need to avenge these people or help these people, then a burnt down village won't do any good for you except for world building. But what I wanted to say is also that object you have.
Yeah.
Coming back to the MacGuffin, that object, that sword, for example, has some properties. You can also put that properties maybe into something else. Like you have a blade that is supposed to be a blade that opens a dungeon.
Yeah.
But now you have this blade somewhere else. Make it a ring that someone wears. That is the son of an old adventurer. Like you don't have to put the blade that you would have found at that dungeon now into the hands of a simple fisher. But you could put the ring from his mother, that is the wife of an adventurer that has been in that dungeon, as the new key object.
Exactly. Then reverting the main object you had in mind first to somewhat of a red herring, maybe. So you think about the properties or the thing that this object needs to provide. If they go somewhere else, but you need them to do or you need them to get this item, you can pick the properties from that main item to a different one. And then make it that the rumors or the sayings about this specific item were just that. Rumors, but the item is actually something else.
Yeah, that's interesting. That also is... Now we're already in the topic of flexibility, right? We talked a lot about different opportunities. That is like now if you now go back to like 10 minutes ago where we started this discussion about these items and ways you can go, and play that back. That is basically describing what improv looks like in the game. Not knowing which path to go, but thinking about the different path and then going on to one of them. Like basically now you can, going back that discussion, hearing it again, choose one of the path we described, and that's your path you improv. That's improv. That is what improv is there for. That's why we do it, because you have a lot of flexibility. You can react to player actions.
Yeah.
That gives you, as the DM, and your players freedom in the world. You can move around, you can play with it.
And it gives the players a feeling of agency and a real feeling of having a bigger impact than they even got already. Because they all feel like you move everything in their path for the story to follow, but regarding their actions, it has an impact on the story, for the good or bad, for good or worse.
Yeah, nothing feels out of place. They can go wherever they please and do what they want to do there and still drive the story forward. Like, what I hate is when my DMs lead me down a dead end. Like, I can understand why they're sometimes important to the story, but if there's only one way to go, and the characters wouldn't take that path because of character personalities, because of discussions they have had, then you need to change that path. You need to adapt to your players.
Yeah.
Don't be set in your plan, and if, like in a dungeon, if I go to a right and there's a dead end there, then that's okay. That's not what I'm talking about. But what I'm talking about is that none of my actions seem to lead to something. Even if it's failure in something. Even if I don't make it in time to the courtroom to appeal to the queen that my friend is innocent. That is in some ways fine, but...
Yeah, because this can lead to an incentive for you for if something like this happens again, you will act on it more quickly. It gives you opportunities again.
Yeah, exactly. The problem is just that I hate if DMs don't give me the freedom I, as a living being in this world, should deserve.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want you to break the laws of physics of your world for me. If I can't travel at light speed, that's not what I'm asking again, right? It's just let my actions have consequences. Let me feel those consequences.
Yeah.
Don't just say, this was a no-go, this didn't work.
Coming back to the example where you have to appeal to the queen that your friend is innocent. If you are in a city 3 days of travel away from where you would have to appeal, and your friend will be executed in 5 days, then you have enough time to get there. If you decide, I want to go in that inn, I want to play there, I want to do this, I want to do that, and then don't make it in those 4.5 to 5 days, that's on you.
Yeah.
But if you get the message that your friend will be executed in 2 days, and you have 3 days of travel ahead of you, there's not much you can do. And that's just, it can be a plot point as well, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It is a plot point, basically finding a way to get there quicker, like a flying carpet, teleportation, whatever, right?
Yeah.
But also, again, if you're a DM that gives me this information with knowing full way that I have no way of getting there, and also just saying no to every plan I come up with, then you just wanted me to fail. And that does not work. Improv also provides, for me, a lot of prep time reduce. If I know I can improv this NPC's talk with the players, I don't have to prep that much for it. It reduces the prep time I have and makes the time I have for prepping more effective.
Yeah.
I can do a lot more prep in the time I take for prep because I have to prep less minor, simple stuff that I can improv.
Exactly. Yeah, I think improv as well provides a way more diverse or different stories. Because if you plan your session, you have one mindset and one way of thinking about it. But if you improv or if your players do something else, they have 4 mindsets coming to one conclusion, which you might not even have thought of in 100 years. And that can lead to very interesting, different and memorable sessions.
There are a lot of things that you as a DM can plan for, and those things are not just for fun. Those things are for, like, they're not for funsies. Your players don't come to the table making decisions of their characters that may sound weird at first just because it's fun. They make these decisions because they think their character would make these decisions in these situations. So roll with it. Rolling with the improv your players give you. So we talked about improv from a DM perspective because, well, with DoubleDM, we talk about DM perspectives, right, of things. What's the difference between DM improv and player improv for you?
Mostly, the DM has to improv a lot of information, mostly, about places, people, objects, motivations and stuff like that. That's hard, but players have to improv their reactions to those information they get because they cannot plan anything because they don't know everything about the world you do as a DM. You know what I mean, right?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, the DM has to improv a lot of information and players have to improv on that information, but the DM also has to improv on the information the players provide with their actions.
Exactly. It's interlocking and overlapping a lot. Those two things.
Like, the improv is the same. You both do improv based on information, right? But the DM has to do a lot more improv out of the moment, improvising the path you take.
And the players improv the actions they are gonna take mostly. If it's talking or fighting or hiding or raiding or looting or stuff like that, that's just the improv your players do on the information that you give them, which then leads to new prompts for you, which you can use for new information to give them, which lead them to new prompts for actions they can take, and so on and so forth.
So how did you get better at improv yourself.
Yeah, that's practice, basically. But you have to start small. You can't just say, yeah, all right, I'm just gonna improv a whole world and a whole session right now.
Well, if you can do that, you can do that. Like, there are improv actors, right? They can probably do that.
Yeah, but they didn't start that way.
Yeah, exactly.
They started small.
Except me, because I'm the master of a space.
Yeah. Probably the first step you want to take is improv minor NPC first. For example, they go to a tavern. You have prepared all the taverns and stuff like that. But then just leave out the bartender and then improv that, or improv their accent. Try small.
Yeah. Try the simple NPC that's only there to give your players food, that only asks what you want. Okay, I can get you that pork stew.
Yeah. First, for example, try making up their appearance. Then you can go deeper with a little accent. Then you can suddenly improv the whole menu, and so on and so forth. Then you can improv the interior design, the exterior design, and suddenly building up on that, you probably will improvise a whole city sooner or later.
At some point. Yeah, just take your time. I've once got the advice that I think is one of the best advice I ever got for TTRPGs. That's, if you feel weird doing it, you're doing it right, don't stop. Basically meaning, if you feel weird playing your character, that means you're playing a character. You're not playing yourself anymore. You are doing what you are supposed to do. Don't stop it. Like, it is totally okay to feel uncomfortable at first playing that character. The character is not you 100%. It can be, but the point is that character is not you 100% of the way. Maybe some things are projected onto that character from you, but generally that character is not you. So playing that personality should not feel to you like second nature at first. There needs to be some sort of divide of, this is my character, this is me, and if you go over that threshold, you will feel maybe a little weird, not uncomfortable, just not right.
Because it's not you.
That feeling is something you need to get a little bit comfortable with, and you will get comfortable with if you do it.
And one thing I like to do is to practice, obviously, but in and out of game, if I want to get more into improvisation. Because you can obviously say, yeah, today I'll do more improvisation, so please bear with me if something isn't according to before or something like that, or it may take some time. Just talk to your players and then start improv. And out of game, you can start writing stories, for example. Or there's a game with some dice, because we all like dice here, right? It's called, I think, Story Cubes or so. You have 4 little D6s with different pictures on it. You roll them, and then you have to tell a story about them regarding 5 pictures on the dice. That can help you improvise in D&D even more.
That could be very interesting to play a game with those 4 dice, like making the story up for your game. What I want to say here is very important. Don't think you need improv for your games. Don't think it's a necessity to play the game good or to have fun with it. Play your style. You are not doing it wrong if you don't improv as much as people on the internet or wherever tell you to do. Do it the way you are comfortable with, and it's gonna be fun and fine.
Yeah, but trust me, try it at least once.
Yeah, I'm a guy that says try everything at least once in some way. Just try. Small steps, and if you don't like it, go back. And try again in 6 sessions again. Just take it easy. You are doing these games for fun. Have fun the way you want to have fun.
And one thing that helps you make improvising easier for you in the moment is slow the players down, so you have more time to think about stuff. That's pretty important, especially for beginner improv people.
Improv DMs, yeah.
Improv DMs, yeah. So, for example, you can put little artifacts a dungeon hallway, which they can talk about, and make them make history checks or stuff like that. Let them talk about what they see, so you have more time to prepare what's coming ahead. So you have time to prepare the room or so during the session.
Yeah, that's good advice. So last thing we need to talk about is getting players as a DM better at improv. How do you as a DM get your players to do a little bit more improv?
Firstly, you could tell them to do so. Tell them, yeah, let's try, maybe if you want to try it, let's try some more improvisation. I have something bad and I won't tell you what it is right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the players don't have a chance to plan for the whole downtime between sessions.
Kinda. I think you can tell your players, for example, if you have one player that's a little bit shy on improv and isn't talking very much, as long as they don't know what to talk about. So basically, you could tell them that something is coming up where they might shine, so they can mentally prepare for that moment and don't miss this moment. So you can tell them, hey, there's a moment coming up. You don't tell them what moment is coming up or when it's coming up, just that there is a moment coming up where they can shine easily. Like, you can build their anticipation for that moment so that when they are in that moment, they feel that they are the one that's needed for this challenge. Like a ranger is needed to track enemies or something through the woods. That's good. And that can be very good combined with backstory chunks. Giving your players something from their backstories or something that is personal to their characters, making this very interesting, telling them, hey, there is maybe something a little bit of your backstory coming up. Watch out for that. And then wondering, okay, what's coming up? When the backstory then comes up, they are not surprised. They are not taken aback by this and can act on that. That's very helpful for me, giving my players something to make them more comfortable with playing their characters and therefore improv. Because I think improv comes a lot more easier to players because they only have to improv their one character.
Mm-hmm.
So making them comfortable with the character is a little bit the same as making them more comfortable at improv.
Yeah, one thing what improv provides is if you improv more, you usually as a player role play more. I have experienced that.
Well, improv is only role play, right?
Exactly. That's the reason. You talk more as your character and not, yeah, my character says that and that. You are in the moment and playing your character right now. That helps a lot. I just thought of that. And I think coming back to how to get your players to act better at improv is giving them clear challenges that can be overcome. For example, they are locked in a cell. They ask you, can I break the bars open? And you as a DM say, no, but the guard is fell asleep right for the cells. And it may look like you could reach the keys from here. What do you do? Giving them clear obstacles that can be relatively easily overcome, but still making it clear this is an obstacle which is not obsolete or just can be disregarded.
Giving them again a feeling of freedom, being able to do something and not just having to wait for your plan to go. So even if they are in the cell locked and the bard with a strength of 8 says, can I break the bars? The barbarian with a strength of 18 that hadn't thought of this could be either asked by the bard, hey, can you break this? Which is improv and roleplay. Or the barbarian player can say, hey, wait, let me try to break the bars. And then you can say, okay, well, the barbarian is strong, you can at least try. Giving them this clear challenge of getting out of the prison cell and basically providing a simple path there, but not necessarily just shutting down every other plan, again, like we talked, but having these clear-cut challenges that they can overcome very easily with a lot of simple steps. Breaking the bars, reaching the keys.
Yeah, the most memorable sentence from a DM regarding that and regarding improv would be, you can most certainly try.
Yeah, you can most certainly try.
It can frighten players at times because it sounds like a hard thing to do, but it isn't meant by that, I think, in most...
That's the thing of this quote, right? It's always memed as if a DM says that players are supposed to be scared. Sometimes they should be. Sometimes it's really just the DM saying yes and.
Of course you can try to steal the wedding ring of the monarch, but you can most certainly try, but this will not be easy. This is something where they should be scared, stealing the wedding ring of a fucking monarch in the room with all his guards. Yes, but, yes, and.
Yes, you can, and there are guards. What do you do about them? And I think a lot of thing is, again, getting players away from the thinking of failing at something. There is no real clear-cut failing. Yes, you can fail a skill check. That's a die roll. You can fail that. You can't fail at character play, at improv. And there is no failing. And you need to take this away. Either with the clear-cut challenges that are very easily overcome, but just where the players have to make up the idea of how to overcome it, and then the overcoming is easy, or making it very clear to them that there is no winning in this game, and that therefore are no wrong actions to take. For example, in combat for me, I have noticed that a lot of new players are scared of combat in my games because they feel like if they don't deal enough damage in the one turn, their turn wasn't quite effective. And I always tell them that damage is just one way of measuring a combat effectiveness. And let's say you're in a gunfight in a Wild Western tavern or a Wild Western bar, and there's a shootout, and your character decides, because you can't shoot good, because you're drunk or something, or you're a kid that can't shoot a gun, throwing over a table, taking cover, and getting a strategic position might not look effective by numbers at first, but can provide a long-term effectiveness that is way more usable than the damage, because now the cowboy that you partnered up with can hide behind their table and basically shoot freely at this enemy without taking any damage, surviving the fight and winning it.
It's the same yes and approach for that. You can use it in combat. Take your actions to either make you shine or take your actions to give other players the spotlight. Or a different thing, like I want to infiltrate that castle, says the rogue. Sure, yes, says the wizard, and because it's hard and it is heavily guarded, I'll give you invisibility. Then the ranger says yes, and because it is dark and you don't have dark vision, I'll come with you and be your eyes, and stuff like that.
Like a lot of, for example, spells in D&D that don't have damage don't get used in combat, even if they have a casting time of 1 action. But let me tell you, if you can get an invisibility spell off in combat that breaks combat, if you can make someone invisible in combat and they are unseen, that makes your turn as the wizard casting that spell maybe not effective damage wise, but makes the rogue's turn that gets a natural 20 because of that invisibility, because sneaking up on the monster and stuff like that, and all these things they can do with that, makes that turn double as effective. Your turn itself was more effective than you casting Fireball. So a lot of stuff is, there is no clear-cut winning. There is no failing in this game. Die rolls can fail. Yes, but it's die rolls. They can fail and it's okay. The thing about is that you as a person can never fail. There is no, you as the player cannot fail. Yes, your character can fail, but you as a player can never do really something wrong or not good, because there is no such thing as not good actions you can take.
As long as you're having fun, you won the game. So, but winning the game of D&D or TTRPGs is a little weird to say, because there is no winning. Or there is no such thing as win or lose, because you just are crafting a story together. As long as you're having fun, you did everything that you're supposed to do.
Yeah, that's completely correct. So, to summarize this real quick, we talked about improv today. We talked a lot about how our improv changed over the years, that we came from a way more planning to way more improv, or more balancing the scales. We talked about what improv provides, where it provides flexibility, freedom, and a feeling of agency to players. We talked about our opinions on the differences of DM and player improv, and also a lot on how you as a person can get better at improv in small, easy steps for you. So you take this your pace and your pace alone. That's the correct way. And advice on getting players better at improv, giving them a little bit of information extra that they might need to better improv, taking away their fear of failure and making it easy for them to see where they can easily overcome a challenge and improv that. Yeah, that's basically what we talked about today. So we hope you enjoyed this episode of DoubleDM Podcast, where we talked about improvisation. We have a Twitter account at DoubleDMPod. We also have an Instagram that's the same at DoubleDMPod. Follow us on Spotify, rate us on Apple Podcast if you like. We highly appreciate the support. Thank you for listening. Hear you on the next one. Bye bye.
Bye bye.